Hey, man.
Who is this?
Yeah, who is this?
How you
Who
been,
let
man?
you in here?
I'm doing good, man.
Microsoft did. They took away their policy. They changed their mind. Actually, this whole week, every time I change my mind with my wife, I'm saying I'm Microsoft.
Well, we're all entitled to change our mind, like that time that you said you were straight.
This is Epic Battle Cry Skirmish 197. The astronauts have bent over.
Hello and welcome to Epic Battle Cry. This is the place where we cut through the crap to bring you the real deal in the gaming industry today. I'm your host, Tony Grice, and with me, as always, is Brent Adams and Daniel Kaiser. Brent, how you doing this week, man?
What's up? My revokers of ravaging! My voiders of violence! How art thou?
Wow, the pitch just actually kept climbing on that.
Yeah.
It kind of did.
That's
but
pretty
I'm
good.
excited to be back. It's
Yes.
been 2 weeks, and
I know,
man,
that's crazy.
what a 2 weeks it's been.
Goodness gracious. It's been pretty amazing. Pretty amazing 2 weeks. Lots to talk about. Rescinders, revokers, whatever. We're not reversing the trend, but we are bringing back a trend, I noticed there. Without any prior planning, both you and I brought back the
Falcon.
The Falcon.
Did you notice that Dr. Pepper ripped off the Falcon cry from us?
I know. I'm terribly disappointed in that. We should seek legal action immediately.
Then we just get sued by a bunch of Falcons.
Hey, wait! You stole it from us.
The Falcons Union is coming after us.
DK, how you doing this week, man?
I'm doing great, TG in 3D. Want to give a shout out to Christian, who I met at E3 2013. My personal reason for bringing back the battle cry for this week, and I would dare say this week only. He saw me on the floor, said, "Hey, you got to bring back the battle cry." I mean the Falcon cry. I said, "I don't think so." He actually started crying, and I said, "You shouldn't do that because we're in public." But no, really cool dude. He's developing a game, and I said, "What game are you developing?" He said, "I can't talk about it." I said, "Well, you're in the right business because that's what everybody says when I talk to them about video games that I try to get information about." But anyway, shout out to Christian. There's your Falcon cry, a double dose.
And then they turn around and spill their guts to Adam Sessler. It's weird.
It is weird. So anyway, but to answer your question, I'm doing great. And excited to be back on EBC, getting ready for the very special 200th edition where we'll probably do nothing special.
Well, this is our first battle cry after the big E3 conference, of course, so let's go ahead and run through the gauntlet. All right, guys, we're here in the gauntlet, and the first bit of news that we've got is a little more detail around what the Order 1886 is going to play like and kind of where it's going to be at. DK, can you give us some of the details?
Just a little bit, like you said, of details. Now, this game obviously debuted during the PlayStation press conference. It's a Ready at Dawn title. We didn't know hardly anything about it, and I actually did an interview on the All Access coverage and spent 7 minutes trying to glean anything about this game, but since then the PlayStation blog has done an update.
They wouldn't even tell you that it takes place in 1886 for sure.
They wouldn't confirm that. They wouldn't.
Crazy.
That's how stingy they were. But anyway, basically, the PlayStation blog recently had a post where we learned a couple of tidbits. This is going to be a linear story-driven game. Assume no multiplayer component at this point, at least not announced. What we saw in the trailer, and the reason why I want to talk about this in the show, I thought it looked really cool. I mean, the setting and everything about this game seemed like they were touching on a pretty interesting, just world that they were creating. But as far as what we know about the game, it does take place in London, obviously, and it's an alternate history that takes place during the Industrial Revolution. It's going to feature real people, real events, real places. That kind of reminds me of what Assassin's Creed has been doing with, taking a page out of, multiple pages out of the history books to bring an alternate experience experience to people. We don't know anything confirmed about the realistic portions of the game, but we also know that it's not going to be a one-to-one, London recreation. It's going to be memorable and reminiscent of what London is or was back in 1886, but going to take an alternate slant. So they also said that one of the big things they're focusing on is this filmic experience, where they really want to focus on this title as a PlayStation 4 exclusive, having a distinct and unique presentation style. They talked a little bit about, people that go to see movies don't really question the lenses that are used or film grains and things like that, but they just kind of soak themselves into the aesthetics of what they're putting out there, and that's what they're trying to do with this with this game rather. And I thought it looked pretty cool. So knowing what we know, which is still very little, are you guys excited about the Order 1886, or do you think there's still like so much more to learn before you could kind of even put it on your watch list?
I would say that I'm excited to find out more about this game. Certainly, it was an evocative and interesting trailer at the Sony press conference at E3, and I think that the premise that the game is presenting, which we don't really know in terms of narrative, but just the idea of it being this sort of alternate history set in London, during the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, all of those kinds of components sound interesting, and certainly the supernatural or the seemingly supernatural elements that we get a hint at in the trailer could make for some, just some interesting kind of variables to throw into the mix. So I don't know that there's enough to be excited about yet, but what we've seen looks good, looks interesting, and it'll just be a matter of kind of finding out more about the game and figuring out exactly what it is that they're going to be bringing to the table. I guess I'm a little bit curious about their statements, just related to the moment-to-moment gameplay. That quote that the moment-to-moment gameplay is really not what you might expect. I'm kind of interested to know what that actually means, and what the moment-to-moment gameplay is going to be like, because certainly knowing that it's going to be a third-person adventure game, third-person shooter, that certainly creates a certain level of expectation, and if they're already kind of saying that the expectation that you're probably arriving at is wrong, then I want to know what it is. So.
I can probably translate that for you. That's marketing speak for it's a fucking video game in which things will fucking happen from time to time that you have to do stuff with.
Yeah, that
moment-to-moment gameplay is maybe the most horseshit comment in that whole
that
statement.
Order.
Anyway, in that order, oh jeez, yeah, it definitely looks cool. Like I like the look, the sort of the steampunk, kind of vibe going on, and it looks very cool. But let's be honest, I mean, really, I think kind of the point you were sort of leaning towards there, Daniel, is, I mean, do we really have enough to make any kind of real opinion of it? I mean, I'm excited about it because it's a new IP on a new platform and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, aside from that, it's way too early to kind of know. Yeah. But so far what we've seen, the look of it, I think it does definitely have some potential.
Yeah.
But and one, the one other game we kind of know what to expect from is Gran Turismo 6. It's of course been around for many, many years, the different iterations of it, and the newest one is no exclusive to getting pre-order bonuses and whatnot. Brent, can you kind of run down what we'll be getting this time around if we pre-order it at specific places?
Absolutely. So we have found out about several pre-order bonuses, exclusive and otherwise, for Gran Turismo 6. First off, we found out that all pre-orders for Gran Turismo 6 are going to be able to get the 4-car pack containing BMW Z4 GT3 2011 edition, Nissan GTR Nismo GT3 2013 edition, Tesla Model S Signature Performance 2013.
That's my car!
And Chevrolet Corvette Stingray, you wish. Chevrolet Corvette Stingray C7 2014 edition. There are also going to be 16 additional cars that are going to be exclusive to the 15th anniversary edition upgrade at GameStop. I won't run through all of those, but there are some notable items in there. I think the Lamborghini Aventador, the Mercedes SLS AMG GT3.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Ford Focus.
No, I am most certainly not. In addition to that, you're going to get customized paint chips, race suit, helmet, PSN avatar, a copy of the Beyond the Apex 2 app. So that's definitely quite a bit of bang for your buck there. However, Amazon has got their own exclusive pre-order bonus, which comes in the form of $1 million
of in-game
credit. Yeah, before you get too excited, in-game credit to help you start stocking your GT6 car collection. And Amazon pre-orders, as I said, obviously, they get the 4-car pack as well. In addition to all of the pre-order news, we also, found out just today, actually, that, the demo for Gran Turismo 6 is going to be out next week. It's supposed to be out on July 2nd on PSN, so we're going to get our first look at that very, very quickly. And, of course, the game is, coming out this holiday or whatever. Are you guys excited about Gran Turismo? Tony, I know you and I have played no small amount of Gran Turismo over the years. Are you looking forward to this one?
Oh, absolutely. Like, I thought, it's one of those things, like, you kind of looked at the racing games coming from the two big players, Sony and Microsoft, this year, and of course Microsoft's pushing their biggest racer on the new platform, and it was kind of funny to watch the video and kind of be like, that one doesn't look too damn bad either, and it's going to actually be on the platform that's been around for 7 years now, so or 6 years, whatever. So I think the game will be awesome. The story frustrates me just a bit. The pre-order bonus situation. I'll be honest with you, if it was like one car, I probably wouldn't be all that, like, whatever. But we're talking like 16 cars,
Yeah, it's a
please pray to God that these are like, just timed exclusives and we'll eventually be able to buy them. But, to be honest with you, there were a couple of cars that came in for like Gran Turismo 5 that never made it to purchasing. Like, you could, at least the variants that you got through the pre-order bonuses. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I'm really hoping that that's not a permanent thing, because I just refuse to buy it from GameStop.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Other than that, I think the game will play phenomenally. I'm really actually looking forward to seeing the changes they make to the physics models and everything else, and how
the
it'll play.
menus.
And the menus. I'm looking forward to the game too. It's not like at the top of my most wanted list or anything like that, but it is. I enjoy Gran Turismo. I enjoy racing games. Just because, I still every once in a while pop in Gran Turismo 5, just do a couple of laps. It's just one of those things that you could play kind of anytime and just have fun with it. And with GT6, I'm hoping to see kind of those same changes. It'll be something that you kind of pick up, and at the end of this life cycle though for the PS3, I'm curious how much it will sell, or if people are just going to hold off, save money for the inevitable version for the PS4. But again, we've said this for years on this show. I think there's a right way to do pre-order bonuses, and to me, this is an example of that concept being steered in the wrong direction, just because of the fact that when
Agree
you're
with the point, not with the pun.
Exactly. This is an example of you're trying to get enthusiasts to pre-order the game, yet you're taking the content that enthusiasts, and mostly only enthusiasts, really care about, and you're separating it out so that they basically can't get all of it no matter what they do. And that's, how do you just not understand that that's not what people want? For me, I'm casual. If I get some of these cars, great. If I get others, but I'm not going to be pre-ordering this game. If you're really looking forward to a specific car, they're forcing your hand to get it someplace that you may or may not want to get it. And like Tony said, I hope that it's just time stuff, but I think there's a better way around this. And I'm hoping that as we get into the next generation, that people more and more, the more of these types of things we see, that we'll see some answers to them. I don't know, it seems like it'd be a pretty simple thing to solve. Just give all the cards, do other bonuses at other retailers. But it's all about money. It comes down to what the retailers pay them to do this. So, that's the unfortunate truth of it. But in a nutshell, I think the game is cool, but not too stoked about the specific handling of pre-order bonuses in this instance.
Yeah, I agree with you. And also, I think this will sort of be an interesting, test, if you will, of like a game that is coming out on the older platform, and this being the first platform in a while that's not backward compatible. So, I think if the new platform was backward compatible, I would say that this title actually has, would have an even better chance of, and not say like Gran Turismo is going to probably struggle for sales, but I got to be honest, how many people that buy the new consoles are going to be like, well, man, I'd kind of like to play that, but I've just got this new console that I really want to be playing on.
Yeah,
so
I'm excited about that.
Maybe I'll just, instead of spending the money there, I'll wait till Gran Turismo 7 or whatever.
And what's interesting too, just one last note, I'm surprised that the racing genre is probably the most competitive on the next gen platforms. When you think about all the racing games that have been announced, it's really interesting to know that genre is going to. I think most people picking up one of the new consoles will get a racing game.
Yeah, I think it's because racing games are no-brainers as far as like really showing off like graphic fidelity.
That's true, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so racing games are great ways to to sort of gauge like how awesome your new graphics are in your new console.
And I feel like because they build these models with higher poly counts in mind to begin with, sometimes that it's probably a little bit easier to move to a new platform versus like coming up with completely new assets or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
But last little note, I will say, very last note, is that Ubisoft's The Crew, I think, is probably one of the only ones that's really doing like something different, I think, out of the racing game. So anyway, it's going to be interesting for racing fans on next gen consoles with all the available titles. So it'll be interesting to see which one they put in the driver's seat.
Yeah. All right, well, so the next bit of news we got is coming out of the Dead Rising 3 camp. We've found out a little bit about some exclusive players and missions that you'll only be able to play through the smart glass functionality. DK, you want to tell us what that's going to look like?
Yeah, so, Dead Rising 3 was announced, showcased at the Xbox One press conference. It is an Xbox One exclusive, and in addition to kind of taking that franchise into next generation waters, it seems like there's an initiative to, really implement smart glass from the creative perspective and do some interesting things. What we found out this past week from Capcom's Josh Bridge is that Dead Rising 3 will make use of smart glass by allowing for specific characters that you wouldn't otherwise experience to be accessible through smart glass. The example that was given is that a character, unnamed character, no details on the character, but we do know that there is a specific character who will call you as the player through smart glass and either and offer up some exclusive missions that take place in other locations. So both the missions, the locations, the characters is all a new experience that is being offered up through smart glass. And in addition to that actual content from the single player perspective, there's going to be some use of second player capabilities through smart glass. And we do know that you also do have the ability to interact with the world in different ways with some of the crazy weapons that are in Dead Rising through the use of smart glass. So what do you guys think? I mean, the whole smart glass thing and the second screen reminds me a lot of when the Wii came out and people were like, oh, motion control is great, force them in or do something or come up with something really compelling and cool. It can go either way. It's a toss-up.
Sure.
But something like this I think actually sounds pretty interesting. If it'd be kind of neat to be sitting there playing a game and getting a call on your device from one of the in-game characters. That seems like something that I would actually appreciate the developer going out of its way to make use of that kind of alternate reality through smart glass. What do you guys think?
Here's the thing, man. I kind of see where you're coming from, but I do disagree a little bit because I like the idea of second screen experiences. I like the direction that we're seeing different people going, and I think that right now it's a little bit of a sandbox, and people are trying to kind of figure out what they're going to do with their second screen experience, whether it's Dead Rising 3 or Watch Dogs or The Division or whatever. Here's the thing about it that I kind of have an issue with. I don't like the idea that a game experience, a core game experience, as in you and the controller playing the game on the console, that there is a part of that experience that is cut off from you if you don't happen to have a smartphone. Mm-hmm. I get that, there's going to be some component of the game you could experience through the smartphone, like in Watch Dogs. And obviously, if you don't have a smartphone, you can't have that experience. But it doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to fully experience the game itself. And in this case, they're kind of saying that you're not going to really be able to experience the game itself if you don't have
Well,
smart glass
actually,
on some mobile device.
Well, one of the quotes that he had was kind of addressing exactly what you're talking about. I could see that being a fear of people, and it's something actually I totally agree with. But his quote, just to say what Josh Bridge said about it was, this character that I'm talking about with smart glass, in referencing him, he said his storyline is his own and it interweaves with the main storyline. Without it, you're not losing out on what the story is, but you're getting more out of the game. End quote.
See, that sounds like it's saying like, you're not going to be missing anything. I mean, you're kind of going to be missing some stuff, but you're not really going to be missing anything.
It might not detract from the story of the game, but the simple fact of the matter is that there is a component of the game experience you are not getting if you don't have smart glass installed on some mobile device or tablet or whatever. And I don't think that's the best implementation of this. I like the idea of the second screen experience. And I just think that we're already seeing other people that are implementing it in a better way. I don't like that aspect of this.
I mean, but in defense, because I do think I don't like the way he kind of says it, because he's basically just saying like, you're not really going to miss anything if you don't have this, but if you've got it, there's going to be some cool stuff that you'd like. I'm like, well then wouldn't I be missing that to a certain degree? But then I also think to a certain degree, like, if they are trying to push the smart glass technology, I mean, how would they not be able to add something of merit that wouldn't be missed if you didn't have it? You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be, I guess, sort of a balance. Like,
it's got to be cool enough to want to use it, but not cool enough to where you feel like it can't be like an alternate ending. But it's got to be.
So I don't know. I'm sure it's probably a tough line to walk, but we'll, I think definitely this time around we'll see some more
I think that the point is these companies are just figuring it out. They're trying to kind of figure out what they want to do.
And they're trying.
I don't even know that. I mean, they're just trying stuff, and they're going to wait and see how people like it. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it'll be a while before we even get to really kind of see what it's all about.
Yeah.
All right. So last but not least,
you totally missed my pun. That they'll be smarter about it in the future. I bet you want to kick my glass.
What a dumb glass. All right, so last but not least, we've got a little bit of news on the DLC for BioShock Infinite. It may be coming down the road at some point. Yeah. Apparently, Irrational's done counting the money that you gave them a while back, and they're planning on working on giving you something for it. Brent, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Ken Levine he took to Twitter recently to deliver just a brief update on where things are at with BioShock Infinite, and there was a season pass for BioShock Infinite. So some people have already put down some money for the the DLC that in theory is going to be coming, and Levine just said, "Hey, we're working on it. It's we've been working on it since the game shipped. Things are going well, but game development takes time, so people just have to keep that in mind." So as of right now, we know that the DLC is still in development. We don't really know anything too much else about it right now. So, it's just a matter of, I don't know, I think it's just a matter of, waiting to see, what they end up coming out with and whether or not it's going to really reinvigorate interest in the game and everything. Of course, when BioShock Infinite came out, huge deal. Big follow-up to a very, very prominent game series coming from Ken Levine, coming from Irrational Games. Obviously, it was the first game I think that came out this year that everybody was saying Game of the Year contender. And the fact is we're halfway through the year now. We've had some other really great games. Right now the big buzz is about something like The Last of Us. So it'll be interesting to see when the DLC for this comes out. Is it going to really re-energize people? Is it going to really reinvigorate interest in the game? Are we going to be talking about BioShock Infinite all over again? Or or will people have moved on to whatever the big thing at that moment is?
Yeah,
it does kind of beg the question to a certain degree. I think if everybody's or not everybody, but if a lot of people have paid up front for this content that's seemingly not right around the corner, at least. I mean it may be coming up. Where is the I don't know, where is
do they have a responsibility to communicate to them what's happening?
Sort of, and also where is their kind of, I guess, their sort of drive to make sure that product is as good as it is? Because I mean, they've kind of, I'm not saying that they just would put out shit, but at the same time, what if this comes out?
But what if they put
late
out
in the
shit?
year?
Oh my god!
What if they put out shit? I don't know. It sort of seems a little bit like cart before the horse kind of thing.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the main issue here. I mean, as far as the actual content, there's a lot of people who love this game. We talked about it at length when it came out. I finished the game. It was an exercise in kind of frustration for me just because it was something I more endured than enjoyed, just mainly because the expectations were so high and I felt like I was, just experiencing, well, we don't need to get into it, but the bottom line was I liked the game enough to beat it, and then now I'm done with it, so I don't even really care about the content. Obviously, there's a lot of interesting things they could do within the DLC. It's worth noting that the season pass promised 3 add-on packs. So at this rate, these 3 are going to be coming. Who knows? If they released it tomorrow, you're still looking at another 4 months or whatever before the next one. So it takes time to do this stuff. But I think the bigger question that you were touching on there, Tony, is the drive, the motivation to make something. Which I don't really question that. I mean, these guys are professionals. They care about their game and their franchise. They wouldn't put out just anything, I don't think. But I think they might be overthinking it. Why it's taking so long. They're going to put out
something that they think is good.
Yeah, they'll put out something.
I'm sure that they thought BioShock Infinite was good. And
yeah, true.
Yeah, and I don't really doubt it either. I guess my point was to the fact that this is coming kind of more and more often, these season passes and these things like that, where they want kind of the money up front,
right?
And I don't know, it's sort of, I don't know that I really like the precedent that's being set there. This is, everything up until now, usually you've gotten something kind of up front with the promise of more down the road. This was kind of like, okay, you've got the game and pay a little bit extra to get this stuff, and it's been,
they literally said nothing about the content.
Yeah,
except
and even when he says something today, it's I'm sure he didn't mean anything by it, but it's a little bit, it's like, look, we're working on it. Get off my back. That's almost the way it comes off.
That's the big question to me. I think, and obviously the industry's experimenting with all these models, but I know that if I had put down money for the season pass and there's basically no information about the content at the time, I mean, that is on extreme good faith that you are giving your money to a company to provide you with a product down the line. I just think that there should be more communication, more like, hey, this is kind of what we're working on. We don't want to put any spoilers, but if you have the season pass, maybe you get exclusive access to information. Obviously, that'd be all over the net in a couple of minutes. But the bottom line is that they treat it with respect. That hey, we thank you for your purchase, and I know they're appreciative, of course, of people buying their game, but the consumer has gone out of its way to show good faith to them. That should be reciprocated in my view in this case, because there's nothing that is known about this, and you're just kind of sitting around waiting with this blank check of content that they could do whatever they want, whether you're going to like it or not. You don't know you've already paid for it, and it doesn't matter.
Do you guys think that there's a timing sort of quality to this? Like for example, one of the things I was thinking about is, let's just say that that they want to maybe hold off until a little bit later in the year to really roll out whatever the DLC ends up being, at least one of the DLC packs. Do you think that they want to kind of wait and do that and come out with something really great to kind of reinvigorate interest in the game going into, say, the Game of the Year actual nominations and discussions and everything? Or I mean, I don't think
to me
that
pushes the line
to be nominated. But do you think it's kind of like that? Like it's sort of like the award season strategy where they want to really get everybody hyped and talking about the game again at that point in time?
I kind of feel like that might be pushing the relevancy time frame though. Because let's be honest with you, it comes late enough in the year or late enough in the time. Okay, hey, yeah, that's great. We've got a bunch of other stuff we've already moved on to at this point. I don't know if it would have to be really, really impressive to I think get that for that to have an effect. And to be honest with you, if it was that big, I don't think that they would be. They're going to be really pushing it more as the Game of the Year edition or something like that, which will probably be $5 or $10 more than what people paid for the damn edition to begin with. I don't know.
The odd thing too about it to me is it distinctly felt that they were working on it since they shipped the game, but I really feel like in a lot of cases we see people, developers kind of map out when they're doing the game itself, they're mapping out what the DLC is, and then it kind of just gets, completed and released according to a time frame to talk about the things. I mean, in reaction to things we're talking about, timing, maintaining relevance, awards, boosting holiday sales, whatever. I genuinely get the sense that they didn't know what the hell they wanted to do with the DLC when they sold it to people in terms of content. I genuinely, I could be wrong, and I'm open to being wrong on that, but I seriously don't think that they were like, okay, pack 1 is going to focus on this side character that we created, and pack 2, like I feel like they released the game, finished the game, and then said, okay, we're going to do DLC and we know it. Let's hit the drawing board again from scratch and kind of see what happens.
That alone is not necessarily a bad thing, too, because I've commented often that I hate the idea that they hold content back to release it as DLC down the road. But I do think that there is something to be said for, kind of your commitment to your customer base of letting them know, say, hey, so the first content is going to be out by, this time frame, or, we're working on this, and hey, here's a couple of screenshots of some new characters that are coming, or whatever, something to kind of keep that up and to just, I don't know, the way that they went about it, I do sort of feel like you're right that they just totally, almost like they forgot about it. Like, oh shit! I better tweet about that. All right, guys, we're here in the main topic this week, and not a lot happened last week, so we're just going to go ahead. No, I'm kidding. We actually did have, this past week, had a pretty huge revelation by Microsoft. Brent, you want to kind of take us down what sort of decisions they've been changing here lately?
Absolutely. Well, obviously, in the weeks leading up to, I guess it was the week before E3, Microsoft, in the press, announced their online strategy for the Xbox One. We found out all of these interesting features, in air quotes, that the Xbox One was going to have, that it was going to require an internet connection, that in order for your games library to continue to function, it was going to have to check in online. We found out that there was going to be this Microsoft Azure sort of DRM system that was going to control the ability for you to sell games to a company like GameStop or to your friends or whatever, that was going to place limits on those kinds of things. So obviously, going into E3, this was a really, really big deal for gamers, and Microsoft addressed it at the show. Almost not at all. They didn't mention it during their press conference. Obviously, they were asked questions by the press in the aftermath of their press event, and you could tell that people were really, really not happy about this. They were not excited about this, particularly when Sony made such a big deal out of letting everybody know that they weren't going to be having any of those restrictions. Yeah. So the pressure finally got to them, apparently, because last week, I guess it was last Wednesday, Microsoft completely reversed course on all this. They announced that the Xbox One is not going to require an internet connection, that it's not going to to check in order for your games library to continue working, and that there is not going to be any restriction on used games with this console.
No region locks.
Well, any different than the 360, at least.
Right,
there's
Now, they were quick to point out that you're going to lose some functionality, too. They were like, we're not going to be able to do all that cool stuff we told you about, which I don't think that anybody really gives a fuck about that. And, well, actually, maybe it's not that people don't care, but more to the point, I think that this clearly demonstrates that the pressure that gamers have been putting on Microsoft and that Sony especially put on Microsoft last week, I think that we're really kind of seeing here just how competitive these two companies are going to be going into the new console generation. So, number one, what do you guys think about the reversal of this? And do you think that that's going to have a major impact on how people perceive Microsoft and how the Xbox One is received at retail?
The reversal, I think it's a double-edged sword because it highlights how poorly that they presented the Xbox One, but at the same time, you'd have to be an utter fanboy or just a complete, just rage-filled angst person to not just say, okay, thank you. Like you listened and you made changes. So, I mean, on some level, I mean, this is just they listened to their consumer base and they gave them what they wanted. So there's really nothing to complain about in terms of that aspect of it. But the big picture, I come away with the sense right now, I feel like the damage has already been done. It doesn't change the fact that the console is $100 more than the PS4. It doesn't change a couple of the things and their approach to Kinect, which is going to be highly, highly integrated into the whole experience. There's no headset
and it's
included.
Very contentious among gamers already.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no headset included in the core box for the Xbox One. They're changing.
You don't need it. You got Kinect.
Yeah, you got Kinect is what they say. To me, I think a lot of people came out of E3 saying, hands down, PS4 is the winner, and that's the console that I'm going to reserve and go get, unless you were just completely sold on whatever games were going to be on the Xbox One. Now that this has been reversed, I feel that lightening a little bit, and I myself, I really honestly was just like, you know what, I could live without it. It's okay. Like, it's $500. I don't like all that, DRM stuff, so I'll just be without it, and there you go. Now I'm like, okay, well, I'll definitely consider picking one up for sure. But when the dust settles and we get to holiday time, I think a lot of this stuff is going to kind of have been swept under the rug for the casual consumer. And all they know is that they're going to pick up their games along with their new box or get it as a gift or whatever. But I think the initial sales, to answer your question about how it'll hit when it impacts retail, I think this helps them in that regard, but it doesn't change the core fact that it's still $100 more than the PS4, and there's still work to be done to convince people about, the long-term success of the Xbox One, which, the things that they were talking about sounded kind of cool. If you were able to just, wipe away the whole, I need to be constantly connected to the internet, I guess, we'll get towards that future. They could have handled it a lot better is my ultimate wrap-up statement. It's not what you say so much as how you say it, and I feel like if you look at where we're going to land with what the function and the features of the console are going to be and what they're bringing to the table, they could have gotten there in a whole different way had they thought about it a little bit more, consulted their fan base, thought about the audience, and it would have done their brand a lot more good to do so.
Yeah, I don't know. You say that it's kind of like how you say it. I actually think it's maybe almost more important why you say what you say. And, I got a lot of people, I think, kind of misconstrued a tweet that I sent out not too long ago where I was kind of saying, Microsoft finally listened to their customer base. They didn't listen to their customer base. The only thing they looked at is they looked at the fact that the pre-orders for the Xbox One were significantly lower from the PS4. Mm-hmm. They were seeing that basically like this dominance that they have this console generation. I mean, let's be honest with you, day after day after day, it was just yet another kind of nail in their coffin, as it were. I mean, I don't think there was a soul. Even the Xbox, loyals were just turning, they were doing a 180 on Microsoft and going the other direction. And so Microsoft, I don't think so much listened to their customers because, if it was like that, I think it'd been a little different. Like, hey, we listened to what you said and we thought about some of these ideas, so we're gonna do this again. They're like, okay, fine. Look, just shut up about it. We'll do it this way.
Well, I guess you can see it either
way. Hey, all the cool stuff we promised you, that's out the window. The whole cool thing where your family could all play the same game. I mean, now it won't matter because there's not the DRM thing. But still, you won't be able to do that. Like, well, okay, you will kind of be able to do that, so it won't matter. All right, so the whole thing where you can, pull up your account on another friend's
and play
Xbox and log in, and the games will just be there. Well, now you'll have to physically carry the games over to his house. Suck on that. You want it. Now you got it. Take it and like it.
Yeah,
I just think they didn't get.
There is just a slight hint of that kind of resentment tone in some of the stuff that Don Matrick was saying about how he's like, but now understand that that means that we can't deliver some of those great features we talked about. I'm like, yeah, I think somehow the world's going to keep turning.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because let's be honest, the features they went back on, and in fairness, I really don't think we're, I've heard a few people say like, oh, that was going to be so cool. And I'm like, really? I really don't see how it changes as much as the things that they've gotten back to. Now, the fact that you don't have that people in the military can now play the damn system. Yeah. The fact that now you can trade your games and do this, get the same kind of value out of that you've always had. Whereas before, it was frankly was going to be pretty messy. It looked like. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like this was one of those things where they didn't really listen to their customers and have a change of heart. I think they just sort of they saw where
they reacted. I mean they
reacted. But that's why I said it's why they say it, I think is more important than how they say it. Like, I mean, how they say it was horrible and terrible, but if they had said it horrible and terribly and still been in the right frame of mind, like, hey, look, we get that we got it wrong. We're not going the direction that you know you are wanting. We're going to change for that reason. No, they were just like, look, fine. If you're going to all be pussies about it, we'll change it, and that way you're happy and
Brent,
shut up. You know,
I'm curious, Brent, if you think that, like, you know, this puts them back in the game, because to me they were out of the game. But like, I get now the sense that it's like now we could play ball a little bit. Even they kind of have to hang their heads and show up at the ballpark and like do their thing, and they can't. Sony had like a dream E3. They were able to gloat, have funny YouTube videos, like just be whatever.
Oh yeah.
Microsoft can't do that. There's no vibe of that. But Brent, do you think that this gets them back into the game at launch?
Yeah, I think it will with some people. I think that we all sort of agree. I mean, maybe we don't, and it's not like too big a point, so let's not disagree on it if you do. But I think that we all kind of agreed that Sony definitely appealed to the core gamer at E3, but that didn't mean that Microsoft wasn't still going to be really, really competitive at retail with mainstream audiences who, you know, walked by, you know, the kiosk or whatever in a Best Buy and says, well, the Xbox One can like switch from Netflix to live TV. I gotta have this thing, you know. Like there's still that kind of like mainstream sort of casual gaming audience that would probably go for this, that, you know, that wasn't really aware of some of, you know, the features, in quotes, that it was going to force on them. So I think that this gets them a little bit more competitive with core gamers. I think with mainstream audiences, I don't know that it really matters one way or the other. Because, I mean, those are the people that are actually maybe going to make a decision based on the bullet points on the side of the box.
Sure.
But anyway, I think there's two things to kind of say here. Number one, to a point that Tony made, I have to say that I think out of everything that Microsoft did, I think that the most unbelievable thing that happened in this whole affair is when Don Matrick was asked about, well, what about people that don't really have internet connections? Like, you know, what about like all those, you know, service people overseas that that play video games in their downtime? Like, what about them? And he basically says, well, you know, the Xbox 360 is going to be a great system for them. It's like, well, it sounds like the PlayStation 4 is going to be a great system for them, Don.
Yeah.
So I have to say that I thought that statement, like, you know, basically just saying, like, if you're not on board with our online strategy, you can just stick with the console that's out there right now. Like, I was really kind of amazed that anybody would actually say that, you know, to a journalist. Yeah. So that's one thing that I think was very, very interesting. The other thing that I would say is that I agree with kind of what you were saying, Daniel, in that I think that in a sense a lot of damage has been done. Not necessarily, and you know, maybe it's easier to perceive just because of the fact that, you know, that we're sort of, you know, we keep our eyes focused on that kind of core gaming crowd and everything. But I have to say that in the same way that you're kind of talking about, the damage has been done, and, you know, are they going to be able to recover? There's some people that they will be able to recover with. Yeah. Like, I've got a really good friend. He loves Forza. He loves Gears of War. He was like talking like, maybe I'm not going to get an Xbox One. When they reverse course on this stuff, he's like, oh, fine, okay, I can get it now. Like, I can get it now, and it's no big deal. But having said all that, I do think that there's a quality to this that people have to really, really be wary of, and it kind of speaks to what Tony was saying with respect to why Microsoft is kind of saying what they're saying. If they were so gung-ho about this that they pulled out all the stops, they were going to do all this stuff, then they reverse course without a mea culpa, without saying, look, we get it, we understand that you guys are saying that this stuff is more important to you than the features that we were offering. That's totally cool. We want to give you guys the experience that you want. And instead of that, they were kind of bitter about it. They were kind of saying, like, well, we were going to give you a bunch of cool stuff, but you were all a bunch of whiny bitches, and now we can't do that. Yeah. And the thing about it is, though, it makes me wonder, well, how long is it going to be until we get into the Xbox One life cycle where they're just like, all right, you know what? We got people by the balls now. They've already got the console. Fuck it. Let's just go ahead and re-implement that stuff anyway in the next Xbox Live update. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder, well, how far do we get into this console cycle before you just do all this shit anyway?
Well, what they should have have done, and what they probably will do, is make some of that stuff optional. And this is why I say how you present the information. They're talking about, there's no, if they got up on that stage and they said, everything that you're familiar with the Xbox 360 is going to carry over to the Xbox One. You could trade in your games. You could do this. We believe that we're progressing more and more towards a digital lifestyle. If you want to be on the forefront of that, and it's something that you value and you have access to that, you can now have friends and family. Your games can be connected to this cloud server where they'll get types of updates that people who are disconnected won't, which just allows them to say, we're using this box as a transition from the, software, the physical disc to the digital revolution. And we want to be on the cusp of that and provide developers with opportunities, gamers with opportunities. And we're going to do that, but we're conscientious of the fact that we're not there yet. So we're going to launch it with all the stuff that you're familiar with. They have the chance to do that. And that basically is what I feel is going to happen. Like you're saying, I don't think they'll flip a switch and be like, haha, we got you, and now you have to do this. There's no advantage to that, because then people won't buy games and people will sell off their systems or whatever. But I think that they will now start to gradually implement the features that they defined as the future that, now they'll start gradually implementing them in the future as they try to usher in a new generation of gaming. I think that's what they wanted to be seen as. They wanted to be seen as pioneers who are revolutionizing both, the entertainment experience and gaming. They just forced it too heavy-handed, and they adapted this mentality which permeated all the way back months ago when things started trickling out about, the first initial rumors about the always connected thing. You can tell that there was a mindset implemented at Microsoft of like, hey, you're some sort of Luddite if you don't adapt to this,
right?
Or like,
right. And Microsoft is the Apollo astronauts of fucking gamers in the ass.
And that's what I'm saying though. They had, you could tell that there was this mentality of like, we're going to revolutionize entertainment, and if people don't like it, well, those are the people that get left behind. Or people didn't like cell phones at one point, or downloading music, and so let's just force it on them. And if they don't like it, then that's who they are, and they're not in our camp. You could tell that was there, but that camp is very strong, and now they're having to cater to that camp, and so they're learning to have to balance the ship.
And I think it's a lot about that they didn't make they didn't. I think they were so proud of their idea and the fact that no one really liked it. I mean, there wasn't really many people out there that were saying like, now wait a minute, all these things are come up with are really cool. Like, so maybe it is okay. I mean, I think most people were just saying like, look, I don't really see a lot of benefit to these new things, and I feel like we're giving up a lot.
Feature that all of these features come at the cost of giving up so much of what we have now.
Exactly.
And also because people don't. I think that people inherently don't trust the sort of like the digital goods model. People are very, very skeptical about that, and they have good reason to be, because there are so few examples of companies that have integrated it really, really well. And even the companies that are successful at it, like Apple off the top of my head,
or Steam,
it's taken them time. But it's taken them time. Like they've had to evolve to the point where they kind of are right now. But I was thinking about a conversation Tony and I had maybe a couple of days after E3 was over, and I was making the point.
We're not talking about my genital warts, sorry, because that was just between you and I.
I was making the point that the company that wants to really sell consumers on digital goods and to reassure them that their digital goods are going to come with all of the freedom and all of the flexibility that physical goods has, it's really easy to do. What that means is they've got to set up a system by which you can loan, trade, and sell your digital goods the same way you can your physical goods. And that I think is the inherent thing, is digital goods limit people and they lock them in. And that's why physical goods still have some. That's why they still have some gravitas with consumers, because
I think that's kind of what Microsoft was trying to do,
goods. But no, that's the thing though. They weren't addressing those core things. They weren't addressing the fact that there's no way for you to do everything with a digital copy of a game that you can do with a physical copy of the game. They didn't say that. They weren't doing that.
Well,
and if they actually were, like if they really were trying to pioneer, that should have been front and center.
They didn't explain it very well.
Like, okay, look, we understand that everybody's really concerned about used games and being able to trade games with your friends and and all those kinds of things. Here's what we're going to do about it. We're taking that into the 21st century, and now you're going to be able to do all these things with your digital games library. If they were really trying to do that, they would have led the press conference with it.
Yeah,
and
they kind of did, but
they were hiding from.
No, they really didn't, though, DK.
They weren't. They were hiding from the press release they put out the week before. They were doing everything in their power.
Oh yeah, no, they didn't even address. Oh yeah, no, they didn't address it. Absolutely not. But my only point, and I've made perfectly clear that I didn't like any of the stuff they're saying. But just to clarify and make sure we're accurate here, the idea of loaning a game, they had. This is how you loan a game. It just really sucked. That if you want to trade in a game, they had, this is how you trade in a game. It just really sucked. I mean, so they had those things there, unless I'm missing something that you're saying, but I mean, they had those kind of things and tried to make them digital. It's just that nobody liked what they had to say.
Well, exactly. And that's what I think Brent is trying to point out is they had the opportunity, if they had come out with some concept that was as revolutionary as what Brent and I were talking about was essentially why people don't like digital content as much as physical content for a variety of reasons. But one is you don't really have any control over it. You get to play it and that's it. But if they had done something where you could say give up your access to a digitally download title to get a percentage back, like you get 20 or 30% back for what you paid for it, that you could then spend on another game in the store, or somebody could buy you buy a license for X game and you give it up and you get credit to buy a new game in the store. If they'd done something along those lines, I think people could have gotten pretty excited about it, or at least it would have been something. But what they were basically just saying is hey, you're going to be able to do what you did before, but there are probably going to be even more restrictions on it. It might be a little more difficult. You may only be able to do it at certain places.
Right. Yeah. And they could have, and just off the top of my head, I mean, the whole changing of Microsoft points to real currency, they could have really harped on hey, you're not just a gamer anymore. You have your online digital kind of, bank or whatever, and like what you're saying, hey, I'm done with this game. Yeah, I'll send it up into the stratosphere and get credit for it, and they could have really harped on that type of revolution, like in the next generation.
Yeah, but that's the whole point. They didn't do that. Yeah. So real quick, and I do think there is something to be said here, because I do, for everything we've said, I do think I disagree maybe with both of you on how much this damages Microsoft. We're talking about basically 3 weeks of bad press. I think a month from now, I feel like the vast majority of this is erased. Not all of it.
I actually don't disagree with that. I don't know how much this is going to really, really be a big deal.
Yeah. Had this gone on, had this gone on for months, leading up, to say a month prior to, and then they made some sort of revelation that hey, fine, we're going to do it, we're going to change. I think that would have hurt more. But let's be honest with you, to somewhat to their credit, they addressed it now rather than waiting further down the road.
Yeah.
And so realistically, we're talking. A month ago, people had maybe a few questions in their mind, but hey, I love the 360. I love Microsoft. I'm probably getting the new console. I'm excited about it. And then, within a week or two, they were like, I'm not so sure. And then, now we're back to okay, it's a lot closer again.
Yeah.
I really don't feel like this has. I think a year from now, it means nothing. The market will be where it's going to be. Based on the games and whatnot, so I don't know. I really feel like a month from now, this will almost not matter. Now the other things, because there are a few things, one thing we brought up is the fact that Sony's cheaper. Sony's cheaper out the gate. And they're because they didn't do the camera and stuff like that, which I've argued I don't know that many people are that excited about the Kinect, itself, and they've got a headset that Microsoft's not going to be giving you a headset, but that you can do it through the Kinect and things like that. So there's a lot of things that still differentiate them. But I do think that I've seen way too many people that did, I think, sort of what you were describing, Brent, which is oh, I'm not so sure about this. I might go appeal. Oh, wait a minute, they changed? All right, sweet, back on board. Let's go. That's all it took.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely agree that I think that Microsoft is definitely staying competitive, and I don't think either Microsoft or Sony, they don't want to lose. And I mean, I think that you saw that in Sony at E3. You could see that Sony was hungry to win this thing, and they were pulling out all the stops to make sure that they did.
Yeah.
They had a great E3. We all agree they definitely won that first skirmish. But in Microsoft being willing to give up so many components of the vision that they had that they had for the Xbox One, I think that we're seeing that they are also very, very competitive, and it's going to make for a very interesting year, and it's going to make for a very interesting launch. I think that the back and forth between these two companies, and the features that they're going to be rolling out, the things they're going to be talking about to entice gamers to their camp, I don't think we have seen the last of it by far.
Yeah, no, and as far as the damage aspect, I mean, there's people who just, let's face it, we're being rational. There's a lot of people out there who are not rational, and as soon as they get an initial impression, they just want to hate something, so they're going to hate it. And out of this E3, it's obviously easier to hate the Xbox One for everything that they brought to the table. And like you said, they kind of humbled themselves and did what they needed to do to get back in the ball game. The dust will settle eventually, but the big sticking point of the price point.
There were still plenty of fanboys that hated on the PS4, though, even after all that. There was still plenty of people that are just like, yeah, but look at the games. They look like crap. Or they, look at the exclusives you got here. The bad thing is there's people on those sides that look at both those things. But the fact of the matter is that, I think everybody is winning out on this change.
Yeah, that's true. I agree.
Decision. All right, guys, well, we are coming up near the end of this week's Skirmish, but first, we have our Battle Cries of the Week, and my Battle Cries can go out to something that, speaking a little bit for Brent here, we actually, he got his Ouya system that he was part of the Kickstarter for, and the Ouya was just released in retail.
I got it.
Yeah, he got his a couple weeks back, actually. We did a video. It's up on YouTube.
Right.
Please don't watch it because it's really embarrassing. So, But the thing is, there's apparently, the Ouya released to retail on the 25th of June, and there are still an awful lot of backers who haven't even received their units yet.
Yep.
And I gotta be honest, this is one of those things. This is actually a little bit sort of like the DLC story we were talking about with BioShock Infinite earlier. This kind of thing where like people that have, it's sort of like your most dedicated fans, or the people that are the most interested in helping you see your vision through. You've got to make sure that you take care of them. Mm-hmm. And I feel a little bit for the team over at the Ouya team, because apparently it's at least somewhat in a little bit out of their hands. Like apparently it's
you say
something
a little bit, but it's totally out of their hands.
Well, no, I don't necessarily say it's totally, because let's see, they made the agreements with these partners, and they made the agreements with the shipping partners and whatnot. Like, if they didn't have confidence that these people would do what they were supposed to do, then they should have never been working with them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I do think that it's not fair to say that it's all their fault, but it's also not fair to say that it's out of their hands completely either.
Well, no, I mean, it's out of their hands in the sense that like they can't change like the shipping. Like, they don't have the ability to, like, go to, like, a new distributor or a new shipper at this point in the game. Like, they physically are not in possession of those Ouya consoles. That pallet is out in the world.
Today, you are right on that. But,
right.
like, months ago, when they had the power to see who was going to be shipping them, when did they need to get them to them in time to get to customers on time, they did have, I think, somewhat control over that. But fair enough. I'll give you that to a certain degree. But the point is, they need to make good for those folks in some way, I feel like. Like, I don't know if that means maybe they get a free game, or they get some sort of additional freebie that maybe comes along with it. But to me, that is one problem with a Kickstarter, is I sort of think that those people that help them off the ground sometimes get forgotten if the project gets a little too big, like to where it's like, okay, wait a minute, we gotta, our big thing is now retail, we gotta get out to retail. Okay, before we do that, let's make sure we take care of the people that really make sure we got here. So that's just my little thing. Now, to its credit, I gotta be honest, Brent, you got yours, it's been almost a month ago now, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so apparently it takes a month to ship one overseas.
I like it a lot. It's a very, very cool little piece of kit. And did
they have like an update yesterday or anything?
I have, actually, I didn't switch it on yesterday. I need to go check and see, because I do imagine that they've been working on some things between the time that I got mine and obviously the retail launch this week. But yeah, for $100, it's a cool little console, and I think that there's some worthwhile games on there right now. But developer support is going to be very important moving forward. But I'm pretty impressed with what they've put together so far.
Yep.
Does anyone get the name, by the way? Does it mean something I don't know?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like I don't know. It's like a fucking Kool-Aid commercial, right?
I mean, but seriously, like, is there anything to that name? It's the
shortest four-letter word they could get a .com address for. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that's funny. That's probably true.
All right. Brent, have you got what's your battle cry this week?
My battle cry this week goes out to an interesting story from earlier in this week, in which Metal Gear series director Hideo Kojima announced that they're currently looking for a studio to remake Metal Gear Solid, the original Metal Gear Solid, of course, on the PlayStation, using the new Fox engine that Kojima Productions has put together, and which is powering Metal Gear Solid 5. He mentioned this during a recent roundtable interview, and said that, I guess in case you're not aware, it would be helpful to back up and say that while some other games in the Metal Gear series, specifically Metal Gear Solid 2 and then Metal Gear Solid 3, those have both gotten HD remakes, but the first one hasn't. The closest they got, there was a remake of that in 2004 on it was the GameCube, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Twin Snakes.
Silicon Knights did that.
But the original Metal Gear game has not gotten the HD treatment remake. Mm-hmm. The HD remake treatment.
I think you should call the Metal Gear ones remilks instead of remakes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, apparently Kojima is open to this now, and he's looking for a studio to do it. Interestingly enough, on Twitter, the developer Just Add Water from Oddworld Stranger's Wrath HD, they said that they'd be interested in doing it. So
this is how negotiations take place now on Twitter.
That's right. Now,
on Twitter,
140 characters at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I'm all for the original Metal Gear getting a remake. I love the game dearly. It was a phenomenal experience. It was a real turning point in my career as a gamer in terms of what it really expanded my imagination for what games could be and the kinds of experiences that they could deliver. And I think it'd be really great to see an HD remake of this game come out. I'm disappointed in that it looks like it will not be part of this this big box set that we're going to see this year. It'll be yet another release after that. So that kind of sucks that they didn't have the foresight to do this ahead of time.
Well, and he's just kind of kicking it around right now too, I think. I mean, the comments during the roundtable, if I read the report accurately, they follow. What preceded that from Kojima initially was the quote, "I've gone batshit crazy, somebody help." And then he said,
I think he said I have a huge drug problem and I need to pay it off quickly.
That's right.
So,
I need
anybody got any ideas?
Not to just hate on Kojima
I'm just
again,
teasing.
but he made a statement that was so bizarre to me. He said that something to the effect that I guess that he had kind of expressed doubts that Metal Gear Solid could be updated for the modern era because it was a game that was made for a certain time, and not just the story but also the controls, and that you couldn't really do like an HD remake of it because it would just remove it too far from that period in which it came out in. And I was just like, honestly, I was thinking to myself, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Yeah. Like, honestly, like you woke up that morning, and like as you're staring at yourself in the mirror as you're shaving and brushing your teeth, and you're saying to yourself, like a Metal Gear Solid HD remake just wouldn't work. It's just too far removed.
It can't happen
from the time when it came out. I'm like, honestly, what in the fuck is wrong with you?
You also cannot watch Casablanca anymore, and you cannot.
That's exactly right. It's impossible. It's impossible.
You can't do it.
Every time somebody tries to play like classical music, I'm like, turn that shit off.
The equivalent of this is that you could never have Casablanca on Blu-ray because it wouldn't make sense for that to be presented in the highest fidelity possible. That's just lunacy. Anyway, fucker, I'll still buy the game.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if you're I was trying to figure out if you were supporting this or not at the end there. All right, DK, what is your battle cry this week?
So, saw a lot of great games at E3 2013. Obviously, all the big ticket items that we've spoke about at length. But I hit the floor on my last day there to kind of seek out some of the lesser known titles. Two of them stood out to me. Supergiant Games Transistor, which is basically, if Bastion was their take on kind of the adventure fantasy type of thing, Transistor is their take on sci-fi, and even has some RTS elements and stuff in it. It was a really fun game. I think the demo that they put together for E3 was really spot on because it was concise enough to communicate the tools and systems of the game without being overboard, and I just like the look and feel of it. So I wanted to give a shout out to those guys in Transistor. Obviously, they were featured on the stage for the Sony event. It will be shipping first, being delivered first via PSN for PS4. So I'm looking forward to checking out that game. But another game that I saw that I actually didn't really know anything about heading into E3 was at the Xbox booth, which was a big accomplishment in and of itself because there was really no games there. They had like this gigantic thing for Rise, this gigantic thing for Forza Motorsport, and then just way too much space for Kinect.
In fairness, the internet was really bad there and they couldn't get connected to the servers. So.
Yeah, but there was a little area where they were showing some games and Xbox Live Arcade games, and one of them that impressed me was Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, which is a part of the partnership between Starbreeze and 505 Games. Starbreeze brought us Syndicate. This is nothing like Syndicate. This is a really kind of cool game that features these two brothers on a quest to kind of find a cure for their father's illness. But I spoke with Joseph Fares, he's a filmmaker, Swedish filmmaker who was brought in to kind of run the creative on this. And this game was really interesting to me. It was pretty simplistic, but what was cool was you controlled each brother with opposite analog sticks at the same time, which was a mechanic that I found myself playing there and feeling like, I've played video games for 30 years and I've never done this. I've never done this thing where you're moving brother one and brother two at the same time with two opposite sticks in that way. And it was actually, it took some getting used to, but it was actually pretty...
Sounds like Peter Molyneux's dream come true game.
I don't know. How old are the brothers?
They're young boys.
Flicking the sticks of each brother. I just don't know if that's the kind of game that really we should be...
No, it was cool because you guys asked me before E3 about Fable and the HD remake and if I was interested in it. This game had a Fable kind of vibe to its atmosphere and music. And so I thought this game was cool. Check it out. I'm interested to see how this title develops. But I really did like what I saw of it thus far. So I wanted to give a shout out in my battle cry this week. And lastly, if you haven't seen the Conan O'Brien thing with Team Coco hitting up E3, definitely check that out. I wanted to squeeze that in there. Awesome kind of couple-minute video of him just ransacking E3, looking at Xbox, looking at PS4, and he had a great time doing it, and it's surely a laugh. So check out Conan O'Brien's take on E3. If you haven't done so already, that's my battle cries.
All right.
Plural.
All right, so do we have our member battle cry this week?
We don't have a member battle cry this week. Obviously, it's been 2 weeks since we were on the show, but we do invite everybody to sound off on this episode. We really want to know what you guys think about the reversal on the Xbox One and all of the policies concerning that, especially some of the things that we addressed in our discussion today. What do you think in terms of your level of commitment to the Xbox One? Has this changed your mind about it? Has Microsoft made up for any disappointment you might have felt given what they were talking about before E3, during E3? How do you guys feel about the reversal, and has it reversed anything for you? Has it changed your mind? Do you feel the same way about it that you did then? Do you think that Microsoft is handled this well, or as well as they could have, given what happened? So we really are anxious to hear what the Accent Army has got to say about this specific thing. The comments for this episode are your battleground. Go to work.
Go for it. And there were great comments from the last episode. It's just that everything is outdated since Microsoft decided to, completely change everything.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, guys. Well, that is going to do it for this week's Skirmish. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this week, and please join us once again next week when we will be mercilessly cleaving the fat from the gaming stories of the day. For Daniel and for Brent, I am your host, Tony Grice. And remember, cry havoc, and I'm just waiting for Sony to do like a 182. They can't do what Microsoft's going to do. So
they're going to announce
no DRM? All right, we're doing Uber DRM then.
We're going to implement it.
You won't even have the right to play the game you buy.
Jack Trenton says, in light of recent events, we've decided to double the price of the PlayStation 4. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
He's absolutely right.